Stock of the day. Coronado Global, big coal stock, has ended talks with US-based Peabody Energy for a potential combination of two companies. Miner confirmed the talks early in October in response to a local media report, didn't divulge details. There was also merger talks with Arch Resources earlier this year, which didn't eventuate. So out of the Peabody discussions today, let's see how the stock's doing. It's up slightly. Let's go to the coal guru first up, Gaurav Sodhi. Deal falling away, is that an issue for Coronado investors?
Look, I must say I have zero interest in Coronado. I've never liked the business.
Why?
It's a construct that's been hobbled together by private equity who put together disparate mines in the US, then bought a random mine in Australia, threw them together and listed it on the most expensive market they could find, which is locally. Right. Put together a bunch of management who, from what I can see, have no inclination nor any aptitude for running the business. They've diluted shareholders multiple times with poorly timed capital raisings, capital expenditure. Capital allocation has been poor until very recently. And look, they may have discovered the light, but I don't understand why you buy this ahead of, we've got two companies here, and New Hope and Whitehaven, which are fantastically run, throwing cash off, better quality assets, as cheap as Coronado. I don't know what the attraction is to go down here. You could say, look, I'm interested in met coal, and Coronado is mostly met coal. And then I think there's an argument for that. If that's what you want to do, I think that's all right. But again, if you're interested in met coal, I think Stanmore offers a better risk reward than Coronado. The problem with Coronado is that it owns a good mine, Curragh, and some good mines in the US, but a lot of product has been contracted out at low prices. So Curragh, if it's making money, I'd be surprised. It is certainly not making adequate returns on capital because all the output has been contracted out at poor prices. And that's a mine that saved Wesfarmers. That mine single-handedly paid for the Coles acquisition. When Wesfarmers was on its knees trying to pay for Coles, it was the profits coming from Curragh that kept Wesfarmers alive. Wow. So if you're holding Wesfarmers today, thank Curragh, thank that coal mine for keeping that business alive. So I wouldn't have survived without it.
Why hasn't it worked for Coronado?
Just poorly priced contracts.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and look, again, I think that goes to management aptitude a little bit. The fact that they're always trying to sell themselves as well. I don't think this is the case of vultures trying to tear this company apart. I think it's internally generated. There's very little enthusiasm. I was at the Whitehaven AGM last week or the week before, and the management there is so knowledgeable and passionate and interested in their business. And you compare that to Coronado, I just think there's a world of difference. Mining is not just about ripping stuff out of the ground. You still need smart people to do smart things. Yeah. I don't think that exists at Coronado.
Mathan?
Yeah, I mean, rising tide lifts all boats, and everyone chased everything with the coal attached to it. Look, it's done well. It's done really well with the sector. I don't think it's outperformed anything. I think you're going to the energy sector. We've been talking about this for a while. In the coal sector, I think everyone knows about coal, and that's done well. If you've been there, you've had a good run. We've been talking about how you diversify into the energy thematic. For me, the energy thematic still, that's the main thing, right? Yeah. We've been long Karoon, and that's going back near the all-time highs again. And I think Karoon continues to do well. I think oil supply, the great thing is you actually got a cartel that knows how to squeeze supply. So yeah, I'm with the cartel.
I'm going to bust that myth. The cartel is completely useless. It's a peacock with no feathers.
Oh,
that cartel makes no difference. Yeah, we'll debate this another time.
We'll see. But
if you just think about it logically, I think the idea that these cash-strapped autocracies with awful governance, these guys couldn't put anything together.
But their problem is
the idea that they're manipulating the oil market is fanciful.
No, the problem for me is it's not that they want to manipulate. I don't think they have a choice. They have a timeline where they lose this capacity.
So they have an incentive to pump as much as possible.
Not really. What their incentive is to stuff up the system so their people don't transfer to another source because things get tougher. Now, with the oil price, most of them needed around 100 to make their budgets work. So it is actually in their interest to keep it supported. So that's why when it gets below that,
but they have no capability to do it.
Especially when the Americans have used up so much of their strategic reserve, they're actually trapping themselves. So in that context, I think they do have that capacity, not as much as, I mean, it's better than what it used to be. So in that context, I think self-interest, for me, that's the most proven factor.
No, we disagree here. I reckon OPEC get together, they put these fancy suits on, they get in front of the camera to scare us in the West. They are completely useless. There is not a more useless organization in the world, maybe the Olympic Committee. I might put that in.
That's a low base. But look, I think OPEC still holds up relatively well in this market, right? Where we are in the inflation, they have some power. I think Karoon plays well. I think you've got to look at the overall energy sector. So for me, you're not buying a stock in coal now that people don't know about. Everyone knows. So look at the things that have underperformed, that are recovering. I think oil's doing better. LNG's look, I used to think LNG was a bit of a laggard, but that's now run. So I think LNG is also priced quite well. Coal's priced well. For me, uranium is the more speculative end, and you've got more upside there. And oil is the underperforming one. So for me, you
sell Coronado?
I would sell Coronado. I would buy Karoon or BOE for the uranium play. I think you diversify.